Point Loma.
First place, Europe. Visited what is now California, the entrance to San Diego Harbor. And Cabrillo anchored here in the 1500s and realized that it was not just a little protected point like everything else south of here almost, but he sent his executive officer in a dinghy into the harbor to see if there was room to bring his ship in. And the first mate came back and the captain said, is there room for our boat? And he said, Captain, there's enough room for our boat and every boat in the entire world. So that was how San Diego Bay was discovered. It was called San Miguel by Cabrillo and later named San Diego by Vescanio. The next explorer came here in the 1600s. So they weren't real busy looking for places to stay. They're really looking for a way to get to China and make lots of money trading with China. And that's what they ended up doing for 300 years. This was part of the basic, what they call the Malayan galleon route. They would go west out of Acapulco, hit the Philippines and Manila and trade with the Chinese, then sailed north on the Japanese current and actually come all the way over towards California and Oregon on the easterlies that blow there and the westerlies that blow there, and then come down the coast past San Diego back down to Acapulco, and that was the big route of the Malayan galleons. You hear about the Spanish galleons, but the Malayan galleons were the ones that went to China. The Spanish galleons were the ones who went to Europe.
Wow. That's about the history, and now let's have a look inside of this bay. If it really is big enough to for all the ships which are in this world.
In fact, there's an interesting story right here. Is if you look up on the hill, they call it the Spanish Lighthouse, which is actually first built by the Americans in the 1851, right after we took possession of California. And it was nice and high, could be seen on a clear day, but the trouble was the fog would obscure it. So in the 1880s, they moved it down to the point off to the left, and that's where the lighthouse operates now. But the old Spanish lighthouse, quote unquote, which is really American, is still a historical landmark. And from here you can actually see the monument to Cabrillo on the top of the ridge. Just to the left of the American flag flying there is actually a monument to Cabrillo's exploration, and that is actually a memorial and visitor center up on the top of it. That is Rosecrans Naval Base, and off to the right you can see the cemetery of the military cemetery and all the white crosses on the line down there. And as we enter, we'll be going in through Ballast Point, and you can actually see the leftovers of the old fort at the base of Ballast Point, which had folding Lancaster cannons to defend this harbor during the Spanish-American War. But this was actually, at the end, there was Fort Guerrero by the Spanish that actually fired on American traders who were taking supplies out, and we hear taking a very important man's daughter out because she fell in love with an American captain. So that was supposedly the first Battle of San Diego, was over a love affair that the father did not appreciate. So that's the history of this little corner of the world. Oh, that's the American. Oh yeah. So that's the replica of the ship that won the America's Cup from the British and created the entire racing deal. 1851, again, that date shows up again, was when the Americans went to England, raced an entire fleet around the Isle of Wight. And at the end of the race, the observer had to tell Queen Victoria, I have bad news. The winner is the American. And she said, well, who's in second, knowing that all the other boats were British boats. And he looked for a boat and there was no boats, and he said, Your Highness, I hate to inform you, there is no second. And that has become the slogan of the America's Cup ever since. You have first place and only first place. There is no second in the America's Cup races. But this is a replica of the boat that started the whole thing.
Nice little boat.
Over a little bet that the American schooner was faster than the British cutter rig. The schooner has the aft mast larger than or equal to the forward mast, and a cutter would have one mast with two head sails, much like this catamaran is a cutter rig. Gorgeous boat, absolutely well maintained. That's one of the most beautiful boats in the world right there. We're just passing the sub base here at Ballast Point. This is what they call attack subs, killer subs that are designed to destroy other subs, especially ballistic missile subs. So this is where we keep them. In fact, behind you see a big gray box. That's a floating dry dock. So the subs, a lot of times you can see them in there, and they'll have curtains over them to hide all the top secret equipment and whatever. Actually, when I was younger, I dove here and cleaned the bottom of these nuclear subs. And yes, they're all nuclear. They're one of the fastest ships we have in the fleet. It travels faster underwater than it does on the surface. They literally fly underwater, they're so fast. So that's a sort of unique little line. We'll see if there's any subs there today. The dry dock looks empty right now, but they might be out in maneuvers. It's always interesting to watch. You see the security barriers that have gone up since 9/11 to keep the terrorists from being able to attack our military. And as we go down the harbor, you'll see that more and more, these defensive systems around the ships so that you don't have suicide bombers going after our ships. And you get too close, the security boats will come over and chase you away, no matter who you are. You got the Coast Guard at Ballast Point, which is turnaround. It was the red roof, and that's the old where the whalers used to be, and that's where the old Mexican-Spanish fort was that fired it. Then you've got the sub base here, and this is all for the anti-submarine warfare. I mean the attack sub warfare system. And then over here you have what's called a degazing system, where they actually register. It reduces your electronic transmission so that the mines and torpedoes can't track the ship as well. That was actually having torpedoes that blew up by magnetic field, something the Germans developed during World War II, which was a very effective system. So they actually have electronic ways of neutralizing that, and they can figure out what kind of noise you have so that your boat has a registered noise pattern so that we know where you are anywhere in the world, because we have listening devices everywhere. We have Big Brother. He's just
Big Brother's watching you, listening to you.
And then you have the fuel depot for handling that. And then we'll be down at the research facility, and that's probably where that porpoise was going to. The research that you see mammals. We use beluga whales, we use porpoises, we use seals. And we use them to defend the ships too. You never know, the bad guys don't know if they are swimming up and try to blow up our ship, who's swimming down there with them that night. And believe me, I don't want to mess with a porpoise.
Nope.
Over there, you'll see where the blue boat is. That's the bait tanks for the fishing fleet. So you got a mixture of military and civilian operations all right in here.
We made it! All the way!